Hey guys, Butch here from the Butch and Chris Show. A few things I feel I need to point out about this episode. A, this episode will be unedited and presented warts and all. Why? Because our guest is Craig O'Neill, and we had so much fun stuff happening before we actually ever get into the show itself. I mean, basically, as soon as we hit record, it was on. B, because it's unedited, you will hear us planning the show out and me talking some nonsense about splitting it into 2 episodes. Spoiler, we ain't doing that. It's all 1 episode. C, also, because it was recorded a few months ago, you're going to hear me reference this podcast by the old name, The Retro Show. And you'll also hear me reference a podcast that never came to be called Talking Arkansas. You want to know more about that? Listen to the last episode. It's all there. D, this episode was so much fun, and we hope you enjoy it as much as we did making it. But first, let's give a shout out to our producers. One of the things that's staying the same is we still have producers.
We do. I can't believe it.
Yeah, I know. And these are the wonderful people who support the Butch and Chris Show. I'm going to screw up at least once and call it the old name. With a monthly contribution of $3. Chris, kick it off.
Terry Schatz.
Terry Schatz, thank you. And the next one, because you love this one. Kate Salter. Yeah. Roger McDougal.
Well, I'll tell you, Roger, how's the company going?
Roger Dodger.
Melinda Hicknight.
Thank you, Melinda. Dusty Breeze. Good old Dusty Breeze.
I wouldn't put up with it.
I know.
Kevin Goff.
Kevin Goff, thank you. Chris B. Chris B, thank you very much.
Nancy Schwartz.
Nancy. Joshua Ramsey.
Oh, Josh. Just off the trail.
Just off the trail. Fran Adams. Fran. E.M.
Bradford. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, that's Donna's husband.
That's Donna's husband.
Yeah, Donna's husband. And Tanya Highland, our first ever producer.
Yep.
And with eternal love to Linda and Stephen.
You and Chris are going to be in here talking about God knows what.
You worked at Channel 11, me, Dawn, and Ed.
Yeah.
You know Prima Donna.
You know what's funny, and I'm not going to name names, but the prima donna that we had at the station was sometimes like a weekend weather guy.
Who was it? We're not recording. Who was it?
No, I'm recording right now, but yeah.
I think I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, MW. Who got in trouble a few times out in public. But yeah, that's all I got to say about that. But yeah, I'm just getting some levels here. So let's see.
Test for the next 60 seconds. We will conduct this test of the emergency broadcasting system.
Had this been an actual emergency, I would have wet my pants. Oh, my camera got moved around.
Mine did too. I keep getting it.
I mean, move back over here. Chris is good.
Of course.
Chris has got...
You knew that before you got here.
Yeah, I know.
Right.
You know.
Cindy told me I was. You look good, honey. Thank you, baby.
Thank you, baby. Yeah. Did your wife tell you look good? Okay. So.
Yeah, I don't know what she wants, but it's something.
Okay, so I figure on this one, straight interview, Craig O'Neill, this is your life. Second one, Craig, just letting you know, when we do the retro show, and you'll hear intro music, we'll do our little dog and pony show. It's it's like morning radio, if you're familiar with that. So that'll be kind of that one there. So we'll get going. So what I thought is we'd get going on this podcast. We'll start asking questions, and then later on, Chris and I will record intro to this.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
And we're going to try to do 2 episodes out of this. So,
okay.
So get ready to talk.
Arkansas?
Yeah, so the Talking Arkansas. Dude, we're going to split this into 2 because I'm naturally very lazy, and I figured 2 30-minute episode.
Might as well.
Yeah. Yeah. So this is a funny story. He says, "Hey, can I come watch you do your podcast?" No, put your ass to work. Come on.
Man, dude, there can't be a microphone in the room and you not be on it.
Oh, I gotta have it. I mean,
Right.
it's like a magnet.
Right?
Yeah.
Right?
So-
Squirrel.
Squirrel. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and get going. This, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the podcast table.
Chris Curtis.
That's right. Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, Chris Curtis, a man who once starred in an adult movie as man leaving the house for work.
I've seen it.
I should have won something for that. I thought I got my car very well.
Craig, I cannot thank you enough for being here on our first episode.
Thank you all
I mean,
very much.
yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, I will tell you, I had an invite to a formal dinner at the White House. I also was expected to be ringside in New York City for the debut of a show on Broadway and a network TV appearance with Jimmy Fallon. Turned them all down.
You're dang right.
To do this podcast.
Man,
You know
that's
what?
awesome.
Chris Curtis.
That's right.
Exactly. I said your name and doors closed.
Right.
Craig, seriously, man, it's good to have you here.
Thank you.
Just to let you know that we are going to be talking about you. Those episodes.
Well,
so
once I see you do it. That's the time I was out of the room.
I know. So let's just go ahead and get started on this. Where were you born?
Man.
Where
How
were you
long does
born?
this podcast go?
Let's just see how long it takes.
73. I've
73.
been broadcasting for 54 years. How long you want this to go?
A long time.
A long time, because we, like I said, at least 2 episodes out of this. So.
Well, I was born in Little Rock at the old St. Vincent's Hospital.
Okay.
15 pounds, 2 ounces.
Are you serious?
13 pounds,
God bless your mother.
2 ounces. Oh, she used that the entire time she was alive. You owe me. You owe me. Do you know how much pain I went through for you? It was a month late. And ever since then, that's why I didn't show up on time for doing this podcast.
Dude, you came out with a driver's license and smoking a cigarette, right?
What a cigarette I did.
How you doing?
73. I don't want to do math. What year was it?
1950,
1950.
October 19th.
You graduated high school mid-60s.
68.
68.
Central High School, baby.
Central High.
Hail to the old gold, hail to the black, hail on a motto, not this she like, we love no other, so let our motto be victory. Little Rock Central High. Yeah! I'm sorry.
It's all right.
It's okay, man. The emotion took over. I understand.
Think about this. I was a year old when you were graduating high school.
Think about this. I'm walking out.
Well, no, listen.
Thanks for running it, Chris. But no, seriously. When you were coming up through high school, what were your interests? What did you do for fun?
Wow. Dreamed about the High Steppers, which was the marching group at Little Rock Central, where most marching groups at high schools had the low-cut skirts right above the knee. No, the high steppers at Central were high mid-thigh, and they would dance and walk and strut, pelvic thrust, to the music and the drum line. So I dreamt about them. And which one could I ask out for a date?
He painted a picture there. I could see that.
And everyone needs a hobby. So,
Oh, there it was.
Yeah.
And so everything that I did in high school fed that need to be noticed by the young women marching with a dress mid-thigh to drumline music with a pelvic thrust.
so were you the class clown?
What do you think? Yeah. Oh, I did impressions. I did dance. I danced. I do whatever it takes to get the women with the skirts. Okay, I'll stop.
So wait. Okay, so radio. When did the radio career start? Was it in high school, or did you have a job before radio?
Well, I did. It was selling. I sold snow cones at Ray Winder Field
Heck
during
yeah.
the Traveler summer games, and I was very good at it. And I must say, I mixed really great snow cones. And I've got a few in the freezer at home if I'll ever want one. But no, here's what happened to me. My parents divorced. Okay, so we went to live with my grandparents. My grandfather was a terrific cook, but he also had a He was an ex-military. He had a room, a little storeroom with all the food that he guarded like Fort Knox. If you went in there to get a snack, and at that time my favorite snack was tuna fish right out of the can on white bread. If you went in there to get that while he was awake, he would hear that door. He'd be on you. You had to wait for him to go to bed to get the snack. Point being, when he would go to bed, it was at 10 o'clock at night, I'd get the tuna fish and the white bread, sit down with the snack. Oh my God. It was so good. The meaty, the oil, the bread, perfect mix. But you have to have something to watch on TV.
Sure.
I watched The Tonight Show.
Yeah.
When your parents divorced in the 60s.
Was that Jack Parr days?
No, that was Johnny
Carson?
Carson. And when your parents divorced, that scandal back in the early 60s, that was not as commonplace as it is now. And Johnny Carson was so cool. He looked good. He was funny. He laughed at himself. He dressed well, and he could talk to gorgeous women and make them laugh.
With mid-length skirts.
Mid-length skirts.
A dress code.
Why, look, Charo's on again. So
I patterned my entire career after Johnny Carson's. He became the blueprint for what I wanted to do. He started off in radio, worked his way to small market television, then made the jump to California, where he was on an afternoon show. Did I just ruin the whole?
No, you're good.
Anyway, point being, okay, here's how it starts. I'll start on radio and move on up. So that's how I began.
Yeah. So you actually decided,
yes,
I'm going to be
made a conscious effort
in radio and build on that.
And fortunately, God gave me a booming baritone that had been with me my entire life. But at the age of 12, it suddenly got like this. Luke, I am your father. I mean, it just dropped.
Yeah.
Went perfectly with my career choice.
Yeah. Perfect. So siblings?
Siblings?
Yeah. You have brothers, sisters? Yeah. Those guys.
2 sisters and a brother.
2 sisters and a brother.
Brother went into broadcasting later, but he at the time, for most of the time when growing up, he was the writer. And my sister, one sister was the horse person. The other sister was Barbie. So
It was Barbie.
love Barbies. Wow. Suddenly, this is turning into therapy, ladies and gentlemen.
Well, we don't want it to be therapy.
We don't want it to be therapy. We just want to know everything. So you decided to get into radio, and where did that happen? So how did you pursue that? What was your plan to get into
small
radio?
market. I go to ASU, Arkansas State University, get a degree. I'm working on a degree in radio, TV, and get a job at the small market station, which, by the way, taught me more about radio than my college did. KBTM. And you did everything on a small market radio station.
Yep.
And
I know that.
You are, yes. And folks, we're talking about the history of Arkansas. This is before radio was so corporate and everybody had a syndicated program. You had individual disc jockeys running individual shows. And my show was the afternoon drive. And I also would fill in and did play-by-play for the Jonesboro High School Hurricane, Annie Camp Junior High, MacArthur Junior High, and Nettleton. So you did it all.
Wow. Now, were you Craig O'Neill then?
No.
You were still...
I was Randy Hankins
Yeah.
until 1972 and was hired at KARN, and the program director said, you know where I come from? Let me see if I can impersonate him. You know where I come from? Randy Hankins is country. We're going to give you the name of a man I worked with in Seattle named Craig O'Neill. So, in 1972, I got the name Craig O'Neill. Somewhere, somehow, there is a man from Seattle who's been in therapy for over 50 years because his name has been dragged through the mud.
There's this guy doing prank calls. Yeah.
Yeah, that's funny. I don't care who you are. That's funny.
So you started. So you end up at KARN, where you become Craig O'Neill.
Craig O'Neill at KARN doing nights on AM playing records.
Right. On KARN.
Back then we played records and we liked it. And then went into radio sales and was terrible. Can we say I sucked?
Yes, you can say whatever you want to say. He edits me all the time. I'm just saying.
Yeah. I know when I suck, and I really suck. Much like now. No, just kidding. I'm kidding. Having a great time.
But you was.
So I went to radio sales and sucked and couldn't wait to get back on the air.
Well, you didn't want to be a sales weasel.
No.
Listen, to all the sales weasels I've ever worked with, I love y'all because you kept us.
Exactly. And I had so much empathy for them because I'd been there. I knew what they go through. So,
So, excuse me, a break in the action.
This is just in.
On television, in the late 70s, early 80s, who was the salesman for radio that everybody wanted to be?
The salesman.
It was a TV show.
Oh, WKRP. Oh, my gosh.
What was his name?
Frank Bonner.
No, I know, but what was his name?
Herb Tarlin was the character. Listen,
and
here,
one day, what was the newsman? Les Nessman.
Les Nessman.
One day, that actor actually came to KKYK, and we hid him away in another room. And Eric Brown, my newsman, comes on the air. Before Eric gets started, I say to Eric, I'm sorry, we've got somebody that's going to replace you today. You've got the day off. And he goes, what? Les Nessman, that actor, walks in. He was priceless. And the people listening were in on it.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Oh, my God.
That's awesome.
Every once in a while, Chris and I will chase a rabbit on a podcast. And so I have to go into WKRP and to say that the beauty of that show, if you're in radio, is they had every archetype down perfectly.
The only thing they had wrong was the DJs could just put the needle right on the record.
Yeah.
There would be the cut.
And there would be the cut. Yeah.
And every DJ out there is going, what is he doing?
Yeah, you can't do that.
You got to back it up.
You got to, yeah, and it never had Q burn, you know.
Am I hitting the table and squeaking?
See, now you're kicking things, man. Craig is going to tear this thing up before we're finished.
Y'all.
So you start
local.
And so you started KARN.
And he does drink during this show.
Hey, no, yeah. So 1972, you started KARN,
Right.
and you're doing music. Where was the next station after that?
KLAZ, Z98.
Z98. And that was FM. That was the move to FM. So what was FM radio like in the mid-70s? Was that like the new thing that everybody was?
Very good.
Yeah.
You are very good, my young friend, my young Jedi. Brother Hal owned morning radio on
Yes, he did.
KLRA AM. He
1010.
owned Little Rock radio.
Yep.
On AM KLRA. In the morning, he'd start out at 6 o'clock talking like this.
I worked with Brother Hal.
Well,
I did, back in the day.
By 9 o'clock, he would be sounding like this.
Yes.
He would be coming out of that character.
He would.
Owned the freaking market.
Yep.
Until Ray Lincoln got on KLAZ FM and played Top 40, did voices, did the morning show that he became famous for.
Yep.
Was controversial.
Remember all that.
And
Ray and Ram. Yep.
And they were the first to ever beat Brother Al. And from that point on, FM started to own Arkansas.
Yeah. So you start in, you said
78.
78.
Ray Lincoln had moved over to KAAY. I came to Z98 to replace him.
Right.
And he was over on KAAY AM and still had ratings on AM in 1978.
What would that demographic he would hit? You know?
Well,
yeah.
It was tough. I had to come out with something. I had to do something, Butch. Chris, I had to do something. The Carson in my head was going, you need to do something. I'm going to have to do something. Prank telephone calls.
Okay, so let's say 1978 is when you came on my radar.
Ah.
I was a 12-year-old kid.
Oh, wow.
That was
Okay,
us. I mean, we grew up with you, dude.
So I remember listening to you in 1978 and thinking, oh, that sounds fun.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So I was your Carson.
You were the Carson on there.
Tuna fish on bread?
I was not, only if I had to. Well, I'm going to go ahead and tell you, I'm just going to be completely honest.
For once.
The other person that I patterned on besides you in radio was Tommy Smith.
Oh, yeah.
Because Tommy Smith in the 80s was doing Letterman.
Yeah. Yeah.
He did Letterman. I like that sarcastic
Yep.
type of delivery.
Had that, that.
Yeah, he did that same cadence that Letterman was doing when he came to Magic 105, and especially when he went to mornings. He patterned his entire thing on
good.
early 80s Letterman. If you listen to that, they're exactly the same.
I was Carson, he was Letterman.
Yes, that's exactly right. And
How about that?
And Bob Robbins was Bob Robbins.
Robbins and killing us both in the ring.
Oh, Bob Robbins was a monster back then.
Hey, Darwin, happy birthday.
Yeah, and he was killing everybody.
I'd spend 5 hours for prepping a show, writing jokes, skits, voices,
Right.
blah, blah. Bob the next day, hey, Darwin, happy birthday.
And the book would come out.
He'd have a 30, I'd have an 8.
Yeah. Well, I did, yeah, but when I was, so like when I did morning radio against you, I was in Hot Springs. When KLAZ moved the call letters,
Right.
when those moved to Hot Springs in 1986, and you know, we were just there in Garland County, but you were still killing me in Garland County numbers. So, you know,
Really?
yeah, even with Ugly Jerry. Yeah,
Oh, my
well,
gosh, now you've...
Adam Blade.
man, you talk about air names that the most 80s air name of all.
He told me that when
Okay.
I came down to visit him. He told me that. I was like, what?
Okay.
Blade.
Yeah, I actually got that from a friend of mine named Don Christie, who has been in Tulsa for years, working radio. He's been in management for a long time, but he was going to be my program director. And we sat and we came up. He said, man, we want to get you a good rock and roll air name. And I guess they did for the time, but it was like, yeah, I didn't use that, but at one station. So
Adam Blade.
Adam Blade.
Got
We did have a really good time in Hot
We
Springs
had a
before
good-
you got married.
Yeah. Anyway,
True story.
true story. So you're doing the prank calls.
Began in June of 1978.
Do you remember your first call?
Uh-huh.
What was it?
There was 2 calls. David Pryor and Jim Guy Tucker were in a runoff for the U.S. Senate seat.
Uh-huh.
And in the early days, back at my first part of the radio show, the president was Jimmy Carter. Hello, I'm Jimmy Carter. And I want to call David Pryor and wish you good luck in the runoff. And what I do when I'm in a big election in Georgia, and I was undefeated with it, I would say the Pledge of Allegiance backwards. And I was wanting to know if you'd like to do that with me now. Been a great bit. And then another one was when I was going to call Jim Guy. Jim, listen, Jimmy Carter, I just want to wish you good luck. And when I was in Georgia, a good luck thing I used to do, and I was undefeated. I'd say, nah, hey, kiss him goodbye. And I want to know if you'd be willing to do that with me now. Well, would have worked great, wouldn't it? Don't you wish you could have heard it that way?
Yes.
No. Folks, in 1978, you went through a receptionist at the campaign headquarters. If they're out campaigning, you're not going to get them because they're not going to have a phone with them like now.
No.
They had to be there. Neither one of them were there.
So you got to talk to a receptionist.
Exactly. And I went ahead and ran it because it was so audacious, I thought it would score. No, not really.
It's scoring right now with me. That was hilarious.
Well, yeah, if I'd gone through with the stick, it would have worked big. Doggone it. But the next week, the next one did work big. It was the third one I did. I tried to. My name is Shikasat Ramad Riyad Anwar John. I want to buy. I called Union Bank. I want to buy your bunk. And the receptionist has a beautiful Southern dialect. She goes, "Excuse me, you want to buy the bunk?" The bunk. Oh, you want to buy the bank? You want to buy our bank? Yes, please. She goes, hold on. And I got a manager willing to pay him cash. and they scored. So,
Oh, that's great.
yeah.
Yeah. So then you were off to the races.
Off and running, probably did 600 pranks, 5 of them you.
So
100 of them you
did it get to a point where people were sending you people?
exactly. In a
And so it kind
of time.
yeah.
Which,
That's great. It's easy when people do show prep for you.
yeah.
It is. I'm not going to lie to you. It is.
Oh, yeah.
That's the third time Chris has said, I'm not going to lie to you.
I'm not.
I'm sorry. Do I lie?
Do
No,
you have a truth problem? Or
I don't.
He's honest to a fault.
I'm actually an Eagle Scout, so
Yeah.
no, I won't lie.
Yeah,
You ought to be a critic.
I know.
Yeah.
A critic.
So
Well,
you did the prank calls. You had people sending you all of that. So what was life like for a young guy like you? I mean, at the time, now you were married, right? You had married Jane at this point?
1971.
Right. So you were a young married guy.
2 kids.
Yeah, with 2 kids.
And this is why in the pattern career after Johnny Carson with 2 kids and a wife, I didn't get past the radio stage. Remember, the Johnny Carson blueprint called for radio for about 3 years, small market television, move out to the West Coast. No, I didn't get through
No,
the radio stage.
you didn't get to the radio
I
stage.
stayed in the radio stage for 31 years.
You did.
Both kids are old adults by the time I got out of the radio stage.
Man.
So,
But you were an icon, man.
listen to Chris.
You were. I mean, you were. I mean, literally, you are, to me, the most famous radio and television personality in the state of Arkansas that I grew up with. I'm serious.
Yeah.
Serious.
You, Chris is my new best friend.
Well,
Which I'm sorry.
Everybody knows who Craig O'Neill is.
Well,
Everybody.
except, yeah.
Don't sell yourself short. I
Yeah.
think you had a fantastic run.
Have you call my wife?
Yeah.
I will.
Okay.
Yeah. We'll get Jane on the phone. You had a really good run of the ratings. So who was your
Okay. I had 2 years where I was number 1.
right?
Clear cut number 1.
And when was
Bob takes over in about 84
okay?
and slowly but surely gets better and better and better. I'll say better and better, better. What I mean is slowly but surely his numbers go on the rise.
Well,
Lighter,
Kissing
steady.
as a whole was going nuts at the time.
That's a totally different animal.
Off in its own. It was another planet.
Right.
And so I was number 2, strong number 2. And then the next was Ugly Jerry.
Yeah, in '86.
2.
Yep.
Who?
Ugly Jerry. So yeah, let's.
KZOU,
But
which
it
was
used,
formerly KLAZ.
and they moved the call letters to where I ended up. Yeah, it's a whole soap opera.
And he played rap and he would play rock and roll.
What was the CHR format?
Oh, yeah. And
You
he
know.
was
What is a CHR?
Contemporary
Folks at home.
Contemporary hits radio.
Thank you.
Ugly Jerry was, how do we say,
Yeah, he was nasty. Right there.
started equal mine, and a couple of
Yeah.
times it passed him. And so I slipped to number 3. Tommy comes on. I slipped to number 4. Broadway Joe comes on Power,
Yeah,
and I slipped to number 5. But when Broadway Joe came on Power, he's playing rap, and that takes away Ugly Jerry's calling card. So Ugly Jerry is out. Ugly Jerry left. He was only here a year and a half.
yeah.
But boy, for the year and a half, he made my life
He was. Yeah,
bringing that up, Butch.
yeah. I'm sorry about that.
I didn't, because I don't know who he is.
I ain't gonna lie to you, but I ain't gonna lie to you.
I actually ran into.
I'm just going to shut up now, folks.
I ran into Ugly Jerry and his wife in '86 in Hot Springs because they would have the Oktoberfest
Oh, yeah?
at the Hot Springs Convention Center. It's okay. So I'm going to paint this scene for you. Someone we used to both work with was there. So the people at the table that they bring in, they have a thing called the Battle of the Knockwurst Stars instead of Battle of the Network Stars.
All right.
So let me go ahead and paint this picture for you. This contest is they have you get on stage, put your hands behind your back,
And eat a sauce.
and eat a sausage on a string. So who did they talk to coming to that? Beth Ward. Beth didn't do that.
No.
No, she did not. She did not do it. Beth's not going to do that. But me and Ugly Jerry and his wife, and I think Chuck Doe.
Butch will do it. I'm not going to lie to you.
Butch did it. Oh yeah.
Were you there?
No, but I won it. I don't know if that's something to be proud of or not.
No. Well, that explains the stuffed knockwurst on your wall.
Yeah,
Or
it
something
does.
else.
Yeah.
I'll be doing
You take any of your accolades where you can find them. If Butch can gobble a sausage faster than anybody else, so be it. Chris is trying so hard.
I have to say it.
He didn't have to say. That's it.
Are you sure he's not the icon?
No, I am not. So you're. This is mid '80s, right? So mid to late '80s. Did you ever get offers to leave Arkansas?
Yes, from management of my current stations, they were saying, there are other opportunities in other markets. Why don't you think about those? Actually, I did a couple of times. Never really got a big juicy one though.
Yeah,
and I thought my numbers were good. And it's not that I really counted on that, because I'm still, even through the early '90s, I'm still in Johnny Carson stage.
Let's talk about Carson, because you actually went on The Tonight Show.
No, I didn't go on The Tonight Show. I was interviewed to go on The Tonight Show.
Oh, you never made it on The Tonight Show?
Never made it. Here's what's cool. In 1988, I was the subject of a roast. And I get up on stage, and there's a phone there. Nobody told me about a phone. And they say, Craig, right when the program starts, they say, Craig, there's someone on the phone who wants to talk to you. It was Carson.
Wow.
It was Carson.
That's incredible.
And I had a 10-minute conversation in front of 500 well-dressed Arkansans with Johnny Carson.
That's awesome.
The Johnny Carson, my idol.
Wow.
The tuna fish white bread guy.
Yeah.
The man who was so cool. And you would think, oh, I bet you were all, falling all over yourself, couldn't talk. Well, no, absolutely not. Because I'd watched him so much, it was like two friends getting together, and I knew him so well. And to this day, anybody who was there says that conversation was remarkable. It was like two people who knew each other. It's like you were talking to your uncle.
Did that get recorded?
That is on a VHS tape that kind of jerks a little bit. You got to adjust the tracking. Mm-hmm. But I've still got it. And
wow.
I've listened to it actually about a year ago, and Carson was hilarious. He was absolutely
Carson.
hilarious. He was just,
to me, was the king anyway.
Yeah,
he was
of late night TV.
I didn't watch late night television really after he left the air. Every now and then Leno, but
here's what hurts. And Boogie will echo this. At Channel 11, you go up to a young reporter. The last few years, I'd say, I actually talked to Johnny Carson, and they would say,
who?
Who?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's sad. That's really
I know, that's
really sad.
But the radio career, this is all about Arkansas.
Oh, yeah.
And that's what that radio career was and still is. And it's remarkable when you think about Little Rock, how it supported 4 primary morning show hosts.
Yeah.
All who made good livings, all who had strong numbers.
Yeah.
Tommy, Broadway Joe, me, and Bob Robbins, great careers on radio.
Yeah.
In one medium-sized market. And it shows how Arkansas, how diverse we were, for one thing.
Right.
Arkansas had a lot happening, that we were Razorbacks,
Right.
politics, economy, the beautiful nature, the Arkansans themselves.
Yeah.
And we all had our own niche and could make a living with it. And Chris, it was phenomenal that you got, because normally, Butch will tell you, in a market, you usually have 1, maybe 2. And they're on opposite formats.
Right.
Country, contemporary radio. No. Little Rock had 4. It was fantastic.
Man. Yeah, it was a fun time. Radio in the 80s was a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
It was a lot of fun. I'm not going to lie to you. But, being, I was not on the upper echelon of morning show guys. And so I decided after my son was born, because the only way I was going to make money was to leave the state. Because you guys had it sewn up. You guys weren't going anywhere at the time.
Exactly.
We
were entrenched.
And so I get a call from, and I'm not going to call him out here, but he's another radio guy here that we all would know. And he was actually consulting a station in Albuquerque.
Wow.
And that's when I decided to get out of radio, because he offered me a morning show there, but I had a new kid, and I was like,
Isn't that somehow children
I can't,
make a difference?
Oh, yeah.
I can't move around. I can't do, when it was me and Debbie, I would have done the nomadic thing, but not now,
Yep.
and it just made my decision to get out of radio at that time.
Yep, that's why I ain't going out to California and dropping everything, going out there. I read a book about Johnny Carson about 9 years ago, written by his lawyer, who did not paint a very good picture of Carson's life.
Right, yeah.
On the day Carson died, no one was there.
Wow.
No family member, no one.
That's extremely sad.
He died, you always die alone, but there was no one there for him on the day he died because he had estranged every member of his family.
Wow.
Point being, no, I'm not going to go to California. I'm going to stay
right here.
I'm not saying I'm the consummate family man or father or husband, but this is my responsibility. So
we've been married since 1971, so I think you're doing something, something right.
I'm doing something.
So,
so the point being, I can understand where you're coming from.
Yeah.
I know exactly what you're faced with.
Speaking of marriage, and you've been married to Jane since
71.
Since 71.
I'm not going to lie to you. 71.
Yeah, he's not going to lie to you. 1971.
I picked up the details. Go ahead.
All right. So, Jane, an artist, by the way, and at this point of the show, I'm probably going to be showing some of her art.
There you go.
Very nice.
She gets a huge reaction on Facebook and online.
She does.
Media with her paintings.
And she's doing the coloring pages now?
Yeah, well, her cousin got her into it. Now she and her cousin have kind of split up, but Jane continues at night to watch British Mysteries and sketch, and the things she comes out with are mind-blowing. They're phenomenal.
Yeah, I've seen
it. She'll post them on Facebook, Chris, and she'll get thousands of views from all over the world.
Artist, my dad was an artist, and it amazes me that somebody can just sit down and take a pencil or a pen and just start drawing. Butch remembers my dad being an artist. I mean, he was really good and did it left-handed. I mean, who knew?
Yeah.
But it's amazing to me that when people can do that.
Now, was he a full-time artist?
No.
It was just a hobby.
My dad was actually a mortician by trade. Like, he could take a block of wood and carve an entire face out of it. So his thing as a mortician was reconstruction. He could do that really, really well.
Yeah.
So
if you didn't want to look at the body for the viewing, he could draw a sketch of it. Well, here's what they look like in the after.
No, that's bad. That's here.
Yeah. I'm sorry. Hey, at KBTM, back to the start of radio.
Hello.
Back to the start of radio. I had a gospel show called Gospel Merry-Go-Round on Sundays on KBTM.
Yes.
Welcome to the Gospel Merry-Go-Round, brought to you by the Farmers Union Funeral Home. The Farmers Union Funeral Home with the Tri-County Burial Club, now with a drive-in window. What was that? Well, you and I both know if he was a mortician, you're making payments on your funeral. But to me, a stupid college kid,
that's right.
I'm going.
They just chunked the body.
I know, right.
Here's
Randy. I'm trying to come in and sing. Could you just hold it up, bring him up to the window, would you? Oh, yeah, that's him.
He looks good in blue.
Drive through, please.
Looks good in blue. Oh, man.
So moving back to talking about your career, when did you start announcing all the Razorback games?
The Razorbacks came about because of David Basil.
Right.
I'm at the state capitol. It's Kids Fitness Day, and I'm having so much fun with the kids and dancing and doing Craig's wacky aerobics. Basil goes, we got to have him up there. And he had Frank's ear at that time because he had established the Frank Broyles Award.
Right.
There's an award to give, Basil's going to give it. If there's a trophy to be given, Basil's going to give it. So he had established the Frank Broyles Award. Frank trusted him as an advisor.
Yeah.
And Wally Hall had written in 1977, because if you remember the coach,
I remember Wally Hall.
Was, help me.
Coach, where, in 77?
97.
Ford?
Yeah.
Ford. Yeah.
Gerald Ford. Anyway. Joe.
Danny.
No, wait, that's a hotel.
Ford.
Wait a minute. Danny Ford.
Yeah.
Danny Ford. And Wally had written, you can go to a Razorback game now and there's no spirit. You never even hear a hog call. Frank took that personally. David,
right.
we've got to build up enthusiasm for the games. David, what can we do? Well, David had seen me do it with the kids and blah, 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 blah. He said, get Craig O'Neill up here to do a pregame party, call it the trough. It'll get the spirit up. David, let's do it. And then while David's calling me, Frank goes, hold it, hang up. I got one other thing we can do. We'll put him in the booth. We'll make him the public address announcer, and he'll be Mr. Razorback for the party, and he can do the public address system for the games. And everybody can rally around Craig. And it's Basil. I'll do it. 1978, my first year, Hawks.
97.
97.
97.
90, I'm stuck on 78, and it's your fault.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
97, 98.
I had nothing to do with it.
Nothing to do. Daddy Ford's last year, and we sucked. I think we had a...
Yes.
Yeah.
That's the year we got beat by the Citadel, wasn't it?
They sucked?
Yeah.
Yes.
No, we got beat by... Okay, here's the thing. I do a 3-hour party, 3-hour game in the booth. I'm just done in. And at War Memorial Stadium that night, we get beat by South Carolina in War Memorial, 31-7 or 31-10.
Right.
And it's one of those where you go home and you just whip and you go, why am I doing this? Because we're terrible. Well, that was Daddy Ford's last year. If you'll remember, in 98,
Yeah, Nut came in.
Nut came in and the whole atmosphere changed. And in the homecoming game that year, that week before, I got a call from the cheerleader sponsor, Gene Nail, who says, do you realize that when you say it's an Arkansas Razorback first down, you pause a little bit? You ought to let the cheerleaders and the crowd say it with you. Hey, that's a great idea. So, in the homecoming game, Ole Miss, it's an Arkansas Razorback.
First down.
Well, it was slow picking up. It was raining that day. Arkansas demolished Ole Miss, but it was still slow going. But y'all, I think it was 3 weeks later, LSU, Little Rock. Arkansas had 22 first downs. By the end of that game, the tradition had been born.
Yes.
And let me tell you something. You can go to any high school game in this state now, and you will hear announcers doing that.
Doing it.
Just
And every time they do that, I think to myself, Craig O'Neill started that. And that's the truth. That's a true
you
statement.
should have somebody like you keeping track and tell them it's going to charge you.
That, you should get some kind of residuals. You would think. Like Michael Buffer. Every time he goes, let's get ready to, and I'm not going to say it because, he said it. He tries to charge people money for that. He copyrighted that. Oh, yeah.
Wow.
See, you should have copyrighted that.
Butch does all this show prep, and he says tonight, he goes, I got all these questions I'm going to ask him. If you want to ask him anything, I've got one question. That was it.
That was it.
Here's how it ended.
It was ugly, wasn't it?
Well, it really was. It actually.
Now, had you started at KTHV?
Yeah, I was in radio when I started.
Right.
I went to TV.
Right.
On the strength of how I'd been doing with being the announcer, and that got to be a problem. I'm being introduced at Razorback games. I'm getting introduced at Razorback club meetings as the voice of the Razorback.
Oh.
If you're Channel 7 and you're paying $1 million to have Paul Eels be the voice of the Razorback, that's just not going to sit real well.
Right.
Right.
We headed into 2002, 2 weeks before the season. Craig, this is Frank. I've heard from several of my sponsors, and we're going to make the announcer on our basketball the same for our football. I'm going to have to let you go. And that was about, you just heard the entire call. I said, well, I certainly understand. And then he says, but now we want you still to do the party. Well, Butch, you didn't know this, Chris, but in television, you're working your, what off to get highlights and interviews and pregame and postgame. To do that party and try and do TV too was too much.
It's too much.
So I just said, I understand, Coach. Thank you. The whole call lasted 30 seconds. Yeah, it made some news, but 4 weeks later, I'm driving out to a high school game listening to Randy Rainwater on the Buzz. Mm-hmm. Caller says, hey, Randy, I just want to ask y'all something. Have y'all noticed how bad the Razorbacks are playing now that they took Craig O'Neill out of the booth? Justice.
I'm going to hang up and listen.
Is that your question?
Yeah, listen.
You sound familiar. That's where we met.
Listen.
Actually, I can tell you where we met. I think it was your first year as sports
director.
Yeah. You did a thing on disc golf. Do you remember that?
Yes.
I was involved in that.
Oh, are you a disc golf?
Oh, huge.
Very much. Yeah, very much.
Where do you
huge.
do disc golf in Conway?
Well, there's a course at Central Baptist Church. There's an 18-hole course there. There's an 18-hole course at Beaver Fork Lake. And then in Greenbrier, out towards Woolly Hollow, the old Persimmon Ridge golf course. It was a 9-hole course. Some friends of mine bought that, and now they have the number 6 ranked course in the world.
Because they're shaped like Frisbees?
I don't know.
I think that's it.
I'm telling you, I love roundabouts, though.
I do, too. A lot of people don't.
Except for people that don't know how to do roundabouts.
Except for people that don't know how to do roundabouts.
Do you ever think of the group Yes?
Yes.
Whenever you say roundabout.
I'm a roundabout. Since we started talking about TV a while ago, this is a good segue to talk about how you made the transition from radio to television.
Mm.
And this is about the time you and I met. Because I preceded you at KTHV.
By how long?
3 weeks.
Really? I didn't realize.
I started in December.
And I thought you owned the place.
Yeah.
Well, that makes sense. That I actually preceded Craig at KTHV. I just visited, but
he visited. Yeah. He showed up there, but
Actually, I preceded you.
Oh.
I was 10 years old. They had a pilot show they wanted to shoot for a kids program to battle Bozo. Never worked.
Was he on Channel 11?
No,
No.
on Channel 7.
That's what
killing it. And the channel, excuse me.
Oh, I now see
It
what
was
you're saying.
no. It was Popeye and his pals. It wasn't Bozo. Channel 7 was doing real well with Popeye and his pals. And they Channel 11 wanted to show battle that, and they called it Patches, Mr. Patches. And he
Mr.
had a
Patches.
coat with a patch, and you won a prize. They just shot a pilot, and I was one of the kids on the show.
you're one of the kids on the show. I have the best Gary Weir story that I will have to tell you off camera.
Oh, okay.
I can't here, but I will tell you all whenever we shut them, because I can't, because you might have heard it. I'm going to take it off camera.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
People out there that know us, they know. Wait, you got to do it off camera.
So, yeah.
Yeah, but back to 2000. Yeah.
Yeah. So let's go back to you.
So the show's in fifth place.
Right.
And I'm in that. It's like a rock group that does a concert and wants to play their new hits, and everybody
goes to the bathroom. Yes.
Morning show, people just want to hear the pranks and the characters. Well, the pranks and the characters have gotten old by 1999.
And caller ID has come on the scene, too.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Thank you. So, and I knew Susan Newkirk, who was the manager
Ah, love
of
Susan.
11. She hired you.
She hired me.
And so there you go.
Yeah. So you decided. So
I'm doing booth announcing. I'm doing the Razorback game. So
yeah. So when you first came in there, how did you gauge it? How did you feel like you were received by the TV folks there?
TV folks were great.
Yeah.
Viewers, not so much. I accidentally came across comments from viewers. I don't know how that happened, but I was just about by myself at the station, just get ready to go home late one night, and hear all these comments. I'm never going to watch Channel 11 again. Or, well, next time, why don't you get somebody who knows what they're talking about? Or, hey, Craig O'Neill, tell him stick to radio. Or, honey, while you're out, could you drop by Kroger and get... No, just kidding. But anyway...
Yes, they were brutal.
People at the station were terrific.
Yeah.
So you think about that. What I have 2 teenage kids. Well, actually, my son's 20, so my daughter's 17. But the stuff they deal with on social media every day, and you're seeing that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I mean,
social media. That was my form of social
Right. Yeah.
transcripts of angry telephone calls.
Oh, so they'd write down the ones that came in.
man.
So you came in so you were hired as sports director, and I remember Brian Stewart had been on the air for like a marathon session, and you came in, and so I'm sure he was happy to see you come through the door.
Brian Stewart wanted that job.
Yeah.
He wanted to be the sports director, Chris. And Brian Stewart, here's this 50-year-old disc jockey, and now Brian's going to have to train him and to do the job that Brian wanted.
And he was.
What would you do?
Yeah.
Walk?
I guess he did.
That would be the initial reaction, I'm sure, of most people listening. Well, if I was there, I would have walked. Not Brian Stewart.
No, stand-up
Stewart
guy.
Stayed a year
That's awesome.
teaching me television.
Oh, listen, and Brian, if you're listening here, I'm never going to say it again, but he's one of the most stand-up guys that you'll ever meet. I love that guy. Him and his wife, Tiffany.
If you look up the word
absolutely
integrity,
Yep.
Brian Stewart's picture will be there.
Right. So this is where I have some knowledge of stuff that went on at the time. Let's talk about possibly the most famous promo that we ever shot. And I will tell you the story about how the seeds of that started. Now, you may have a different memory. This is the one I have.
Okay.
I was talking with David Kraft, who was our promotions and marketing manager at the time. And I said, wouldn't it be great? Because I remember like someone driving by the station and you heard, "Who let the dogs out?"
Mm-hmm. You heard it.
And I was like, man, we ought to do a promo with "Who Let the Hogs Out." And he had that idea and he ran with it. Mm-hmm. He ran with it. Mm-hmm. And I think we ran it by you and you went, "Oh, it's awesome."
Well, my version of it is, it was great minds working together because the song was so hot. My version of it is, I'm walking with Jane around in our neighborhood, and I'm looking at the quaint houses, and I'm going, "Oh, this is how you stage it. You stage it like carolers coming up to the door, and you're going to make the viewer think that it's a caroling, and you even have Biba Lolly go, 'Oh, carolers,' and then we bust it."
And we bust into it.
It's cool.
It worked.
Cool.
And I remember, you remember that tiny, stinky little recording booth that we had upstairs that had shag carpet?
It is too, y'all.
That it still has the shag carpet on the wall? That's nasty.
And they haven't moved the dead body.
And they haven't moved the dead body. Well, I knew something stank. But anyway, we were
on the drive-through to clear.
on the drive-through to clear. But I remember Kraft and I in there putting the background vocals to that. And just yelling, just singing, "Who let the hogs out?" And then it's like, okay, let's take it up a third so we can put harmony. And so it was, and so much went into that. And it's like, it aired that season, and then we could not air it for like the next
10 years.
10 years. Even when you weren't doing sports anymore.
Exactly. And the night I left Channel 11 3 months ago, they played it again.
And
it still works.
It still works. But
It's not around.
But you and I had a great time doing promos there.
You were Santa Claus.
I was Santa Claus.
You were a psychiatrist.
I was a psychiatrist.
He was the bug guy.
For the weather. Yeah, for the weather garden. I was the Bob the Bugman on that one. That was the fun time to be in television.
Well, aren't you glad you didn't? That's another reason why you got to be glad you didn't go to Albuquerque.
I know.
You never would have gotten.
I never would have gotten to do that.
Houston Nuts psychiatrist.
Yeah.
Have you ever been to Albuquerque?
I took a left turn.
There's a lot more reasons not to go to Albuquerque.
Yeah.
Anyway,
well,
go ahead.
The job offer I had was for Albuquerque. I did not take that job. But I know it's like we had the freedom, it seemed like, to come up with these ideas and just bounce them off people and have some great things happen because of that. Because it's like, what if we do this? Or what if we do this? And you had just a good creative. You had Rob Thomas there at the time, not the singer for Matchbox 20, by the way. You had Ben Gibson. You had Kelly Tibbett. You had Theba Lolly, Barbara Wagner. You had David Kraft. And between that bunch of people there, they could just come up with some of the best ideas.
The reason why I went into TV, because radio had changed its way of doing things.
Yeah.
These radio stations merged.
Yes.
And you had one corporation owning 5 radio stations. If you wanted to talk to the manager, you had to take a number. and you were kind of lost in the crowd in the shuffle. Television, sure, it was corporate, it was Gannett, but you were out on an island, a creative island, where you come up with ideas like you're talking about.
And we had the freedom to do that at the time. And that to me, I tell people the first 6 years I was at KTHV, the best in my professional life. That's cool, Butch. It was. You know, it was. It was fantastic. But
it was, though. I'm right. You and our careers parallel there. You're exactly right.
Because for those of you who don't know, I was the web guy. I built the website there, and then we had people that got behind the website and started putting content in it. And, for a while, we really dominated the online sphere in news there because of the people that rallied around the website, people like Monica Ruud and, folks like that really helped that out. But, television, being in TV at that time, did you find more acceptance the longer you were there? I know you said you got early,
No, actually, I had the imposter syndrome for 24 years. I'd be driving home at night going, this isn't you. This isn't who you are. You're not a newsman. You made fun of these people when you were in radio. You're still a DJ. And I would go do these events where I'd MC, cracking jokes, and making fun of TV.
So let's talk about when you went into news. What was the decision to leave sports and go into news?
If you're in sports in Arkansas television, you do everything. You're getting a photographer. You're booking rooms for the photographers to go on out-of-town football games. You're trying to get media passes. You're trying to do it all. It wore me out.
Yeah.
News guy walks in, reads the prompter. I'll take my $200,000 now.
Yeah.
And I'll get in the company car and go home. And that was it. So, plus, I'd gotten into, as you well know, Arkansas. I'd always known Arkansas politics. After all, we've already talked about my first two calls were to Jim Guy Tucker and David Pryor. Always known politics, always known Arkansas education, had watched Arkansas education closely, economics at the time, and just was so close to it all. And here's something no one knows. It's going to come out of me right now on this podcast. I followed closely the war in Iraq and Afghanistan. And here's why. The first 2 weeks of the war, a family calls and says, the father, who is stationed over in Afghanistan, it's his birthday. He listened to you when you were on radio. Could you call him and wish him happy birthday? A voice from home. Here's his sat radio. He had a satellite radio. I called him, wished him happy birthday. He's choking up. And I said, what have you done today? He said, we just got back from building a school. Is that not phenomenal?
That's awesome.
We'd ever heard about things like that.
Yeah, you didn't hear those stories. Yeah.
So I decided if they're over there, first thing I'm going to do from 2003 to, about 2007 or 8, first thing I did every day, read about Iraq, read about Afghanistan. It got to be repetitive, and it also got to be frustrating, but I did it.
Yeah.
So a lot of people don't know that. You brought it out of me. Way to go.
Yeah.
Forget the Carson blueprint. Carson wouldn't even go close to that blueprint.
No.
I'd gone well past that after talking to him in 1988 anyway. And
I think that's something that the country is missing today, though. It's like that's happening over there. It's not here. Not at my house, and they don't think about it. So I think that's commendable.
Well, thank you. My new hero is the late Mr. Rogers, because I go to schools, and he's my new hero. And by the way, Conway schools are fantastic. They're just, and you don't hear about that either. You only hear about the problems.
Right. That's okay, man. So you've done several interviews while you've been there. Tell me about some of your most memorable interviews that you had when you were in television.
There was Ella DeGeneres on her show.
You danced on that one.
And danced on her show, got to be in front of her studio audience for that show, and felt right at home.
Yeah.
I'm on her set. I'm sitting in that chair. I'm talking to Ellen DeGeneres, Emmy winner, and it felt right at home.
Yeah.
Because there's an audience there. Where there's an audience, Craig's going to be there.
Yeah.
Secondly, this is the talk show I always wanted. At her show, there are speakers under every chair. There were speakers under every chair, and they're thumping that dance music constantly. It's impossible not to go there.
It's a party.
Dance. And plus, they're playing music that I danced to when I was a DJ. So I'm doing all the 80s dance moves, and they get me down there to put me on. Next thing you know, I'm on this show. So there's Ellen DeGeneres. Same thing happens with Kelly Ripa. At the time, Regis was still alive.
Did you go to a taping of their show?
I went to a taping of that show for Channel 11. We were doing a sweeps piece. Back then, that show ran on Channel 11. Same thing happens. Studio audience, I interview Kelly Ripa. But here's the funny part about that one. She's getting the microphone put on, and whilst they're putting the microphone on her for the interview, I'm working the crowd. Hi, everybody. I'm Craig O'Neill from Arkansas, blah, 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 blah. And we're rolling. I'm getting them going. And Kelly Ripa grabs me by the shoulder and goes, "Hey, this is our show." Excuse me. And she was having fun.
Yeah,
it wasn't angry. It was cool. I think
I think Yeoman was getting ready to tackle him, though.
But the number one interview was Dolly Parton.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And that was recently, right?
It was
2
years ago. Yeah, or a year ago. 2 years ago. Governor's Mansion, Dolly Parton Imagination Library. She came to Arkansas to congratulate us. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a Dolly Parton Imagination Library outlet in every county. 60,000 books go out to children birth to 5 years of age every month.
People do not know what that woman does for literacy.
She did it because her father wanted her to read and to honor her father. And when she first started, it was just going to be 2 or 3 counties in Tennessee. Now it's nationwide. And in Arkansas, 60,000 books a month.
That's great. Yeah.
It's phenomenal. But the point is, our conversation, you talk about relaxed, and it's like being on the front porch, and a visit that you have with a relative. And she was so open.
Yeah.
Real. She's got to be the most loved celebrity in America.
You talk about an icon. Now, that woman is an icon.
Incredible lady.
Yeah, incredible lady. And
books and radio.
Incredible service.
Beautiful.
So, rabbit hole. Have you ever been to Dixie Stampede? No, it's just the Stampede.
No.
You've never been?
No.
Incredible.
Yeah.
It is really incredible. My daughter, we went to in Redneck Vegas to Branson, and anytime we went there, every time we went, she loves horses.
Oh, I do.
So we would have to go to the Dixie Stampede. I'm just not changing. I'm not.
Do they have Frisbee golf?
No, but the food's good and the show's good.
Yeah.
It's impressive. It's impressive what she's done
Put
with
that on my list.
Yeah.
So did you have... Oh, come on in, Debbie.
Debbie's here, ladies and gentlemen. I introduced him, by the way.
Yeah. Hey.
Sorry about the music.
If you were Jane, we'd be showing artwork by now.
Yeah. Here's... So let's see, where was I? That's that part I'll edit.
I was talking about Dixie Stampede. And
Dixie Stampede.
There.
Yeah.
I don't know where we went after that.
Yeah, we'll go
So
somewhere.
we're here.
Yeah.
We're here now.
We're here
Whatever
now.
you come up with, here's the edit point.
Here's the edit point. Okay, so you have people know that your real name is Randy Hankins. Are Randy Hankins and Craig O'Neill the same person?
No.
And I know the answer to that, but I'm waiting for you to tell about it.
Craig O'Neill is the performer
Yeah.
and the money man, and the funny man. No, I'm sorry, I've got it wrong. Craig O'Neill is the funny man. Randy Hankins is the money man. Okay, you be funny. Let's see how much we get on this.
Yeah.
Randy Hankins.
Does Randy know my wife?
Is Randy?
Randy Hankins says to Craig O'Neill, "I'll give you material. You do what you want to with it." And then Randy Hankins also says, "God, I can't believe what you just did in public."
Yeah. Debbie usually does that to me.
That's what a wife is for.
I know. But, speaking of that, did Jane ever have to tell you to put on the brakes, that you're doing too much? Because I know people were at you constantly. Craig, can you do this? Craig, can you do that? Craig, can you come and host
Craig
this?
can do it.
Yeah, Craig can do it.
Oh yeah, I'm struggling with that in retirement.
Yeah.
because we're still getting the calls. And
Tell her my sincerest apologies.
okay, well,
For having you come out tonight.
the
So
real battle is between Randy Hankins and Craig O'Neill.
yeah,
Randy Hankins keeps having to remind Craig O'Neill that, hey, you're retired.
you're
Take it
retired.
easy.
Take it easy. Yeah.
How is retirement,
Fantastic. I like being Randy
Hankins?
Yeah.
most of the day.
Most of the day.
Except having to come here, now I got to be Craig again.
Now you got to be Craig
Thanks.
again.
No,
You and Randy will have a nice talk on the way home.
I'm going to do a podcast, Randy and Craig.
Randy and
Actually, I've written a book. It's almost done. Whatever Happened to Craig O'Neill by Randy Hankins.
That's all.
That's a great idea. Yeah.
That is a good.
You've actually heard some of the book, whether you know it or not.
Well, some of the stories that
I
you
can't
told
wait to
me.
read it.
But the time that you and I spent it, you and I hit it off right away, instantly. In the fact that within 2 weeks I was insulting him on a daily basis,
Yeah,
which Chris will tell you. That's how I say I love you, man.
I can't repeat the first time that I met Craig walking down the hallway at Channel 11 with Butch by my side, and what he said to Craig O'Neill, and Craig just busts it out, and I'm just like, oh my Lord, it was bad. It was bad.
But you could say anything.
Yeah,
But, and I could say anything to you.
Yeah.
And have.
and you have
This entire podcast.
through this entire podcast. Then, yeah, but we have it was a lot of fun being in TV at the time until it wasn't. And I now I think you can speak to this. Corporate cutback. We were a successful television station. We were a money making television station that was owned by a newspaper company, and newspapers in the 2000s did not fare well. And so that's when we started having things like, oh, they're letting go the entire camera crew. We're going to robotic cameras.
And automated cameras.
We're now going to, our national programming is going to be switched out of
Out of Greensboro, North
Carolina. Yeah. And these people that we loved were gone.
Yep.
And you saw morale kind of hit.
The mistake most people have now, they think there's a studio with cameramen and makeup people and all this staff. No.
Were you guys running your own
people.
prompter by the end?
3 people.
Were you guys running your own prompters by the end?
Yes, we didn't start running our own prompter until about 2002. The funny thing is when, 2012.
Yeah.
God, I'm 10 years off. Funny thing is when the prompter remote would stick and just the words would just, we could do a 22-minute newscast in 3 minutes. We were auctioneers.
Did you do your own makeup?
Yeah, I did.
That explains a lot, folks.
Could never get the shine out of my forehead. You'll love this. Dr. Phil came on a promotional tour.
Oh, I remember that.
And he came to Little Rock at KTHV. What's the one question I asked him? Hey, how do you get the shine out of that ball?
That people don't understand that back in the day, we would have celebrities just randomly being shown up at the station. And
I came by quite often. Anyway,
but yes, he did. Ladies and gentlemen, Chris Curtis. But I remember seeing Mary Steenburgen was just because she was friends with Ann, and she would just kind of be there, and I was like,
Yeah. There's Mary.
there's Mary.
There's Ted.
There's Ted. Yeah.
I had dinner next to them when I didn't eat with them. I had dinner next to them at Juanita's.
Oh, I would
They
have
were
sat down right
cooking
next to him. What you having? Hey, you gonna eat all that cheese dip?
I was impressed. I mean, I was. It's Mary Steenburgen and Ted
Loved
Denson.
her. She invited us. We went out to California when I was on Ellen DeGeneres. Went over to her house and
Yeah.
saw where they kept the Oscar and the Emmys.
Wow.
That's cool.
That is cool.
Stuck off in a bookshelf. Walked right by and never saw them. I mean, and it's not that big a deal with Mary and Ted.
Yeah.
But they won them.
Yep.
So, Chris asked you earlier, how's retirement? So, let's talk a little bit about what you're doing. Hopefully, relaxing some.
Exactly. Writing the book. I would love to do what you've got. I love all this equipment. How much you take for it?
Man, we'll talk about it. I have some easy financing terms of $29.95 a month.
Folks, this could be the first and the last you'll hear of this show.
Yes. Actually,
No, Butch is fixing asking how quick he can eat a knockwurst. I'm sorry.
I love your lamp.
oh my gosh, we have had more fun than we probably should on this podcast. The first ever Talking Arkansas podcast. Yeah. Hey man, I'm splitting this into two parts.
Let me add one quick thing. Favorite politicians, funniest of all, Dale Bumpers, Frank White, the funniest.
Both of them.
Doubt. Favorite politicians, believe it or not, the two big surprises were Mike Huckabee and Mike Beebe, both of whom were
The Mikes.
in their own regards, in their own way.
Yeah.
And what's another thing? Favorite coach, Houston Nutt. Love Frank. Frank is what established the program, but Houston Nutt by far favorite coach. Who else would you like to know? You want me to rank them?
Yeah.
Favorite basketball team?
Favorite back?
I mean, that Hog team. over the
94,
years.
94.
which was 30 years ago.
Okay.
I really like 94, but that 78 crew, I loved them.
Here's another thing. In 2001, Arkansas started off in football terrible.
Yeah.
Couldn't settle on a quarterback.
Right.
Didn't have it. Just couldn't get it together. Offense is terrible. Defense, you held your breath. Terrible. As that season progressed, we got better and better and better. And then a guy named Matt Jones came in and lit up the entire state. And we end up playing in the Cotton Bowl against
Texas.
Oklahoma and played them a tough game.
Yeah.
If you had said at the beginning of that year, there's no way you're going to wind up in the Cotton Bowl again, and to see what happened, that was Houston Nutt's best year.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you that the best ball game I have ever been to in my life, and you were there. I was there because we talked outside before we went in to take our seats, and that was the year we played LSU for the Miracle on Markle. I have never been in an atmosphere at a Razorback game that was louder. I mean, the War Memorial shook.
Oh, my God.
It shook. I was afraid. That's old concrete, you know.
I hugged Wally Hall on the sideline. He and I embraced. He and I have known each other for...
Well, you went to school together.
Yeah, he went to Central. We were in homeroom together. Hall, Hankins. I sat behind Wally. Knew him all 3 years very well. He would come in and tell me all about all these conquests he had over the weekend, and that's how I figured he got to be such a good storyteller. But I knew him. He corrupted my brother, taught him to smoke and drink beer. Don't take that personally, Chris. Anyway, so I knew Wally, and we're embracing. We're jumping up and down. It was phenomenal.
Listen, there was some guy in front. I got hugged by 3 or 4 strangers up there in the stands. It was phenomenal. I have never seen, I couldn't talk the next day because I had screamed my head off. I had never seen
one thing, but there is another play too that is historic. Fred Talley runs over.
Yes.
I can't remember the exact yardage. It was over 70 yards, weaving in and out of LSU players. If it hadn't been for Fred Talley, none of that would have gotten set up.
Gotten the setup for that
play was terrific.
Yeah.
That should have told us and tipped us off. You know, something weird's going to happen in this game.
Something weird's going to happen.
It did.
Do you miss the folks in TV that you worked with over the years?
The what?
The folks that you worked with. You know, you're a coach.
Deadline, folks, in television. Deadline is a monster.
There is a family that is forged
because you're all faced with that.
Because you're every day.
Mm-hmm.
We have young producers where I work now in public television that I say, you guys need to go through about 3 months of commercial television. No, seriously, because not only will it hone your skills, it will give you an appreciation of what a real deadline is like. And, but I'm just an old guy talking. So
And nowadays, because of the technical side, because of technology, a reporter is now shooting their own material.
Yeah.
They're editing, they're writing. They have to show up at the job looking their best, because once they shoot, write, and get it into the computer in time for the 5, 6, and 10 o'clock news, they have to look their best too. They're doing it all.
Yeah.
And then once they get that story on, what are you going to do tomorrow?
Yeah. What are you going to do?
You break your neck to get that story on, and then what are you going to do tomorrow?
Yeah.
It's relentless.
It is. It's a grind. Mm-hmm. It's a grind, especially with these young folks, man. It really is, like you're talking about. Dude, I cannot tell you how happy I am that you have decided to
Take this off.
be here with us.
We're going to make y'all a fortune.
Listen,
We have tens of listeners.
we're going to have tens of listeners by the time this is finished.
Double, you'll have 15.
Ooh.
That's not
See.
double. You went to Central, didn't you?
Yeah. Craig, thank you, man.
Yeah,
thank you so much.
I love you.
All right.
Give me a hug.
Boom. Boom.
See you guys.
See ya.